This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. The Waco History Podcast is sponsored by Brotherwell Brewing on historic Bridge Street in Waco.
Welcome to the Waco History Podcast. We're going to air for you over the next few months a special series of Waco History Living Stories. These were segments that were originally aired on KWBU here in Waco. They were produced by the Institute for Oral History editor, Michelle Holland, and narrated by two fabulous narrators, Louis Maze and Kim Patterson. And so these highlight oral histories from the collection of the Institute for Oral History at Baylor University, which I direct, which has been around since 1970 and has over 1,000 interviews related to Waco and McLennan County history, and we're happy to highlight those here.
Cross the Brazos at Waco, ride hard and I'll make it by dawn.
Here are stories of the 1950s drought, a severe lack of rainfall that hit Texas.
Then the night came alive with gunfire. He knew that at last it'd been found.
This is Living Stories, featuring voices from the collections of the Baylor University Institute for Oral History. I'm Louis Maze. The worst drought in Texas in recent memory belongs to the 1950s. The seemingly never-ending dry spell started in '49. By the time it came to an end in 1956, all of Texas's 254 counties, save 10, had been declared federal disaster areas. Jess Lunsford, the founding administrator of South Texas Children's Home, describes how the dire conditions threatened the new campus near Beeville.
We hauled out 30 tremendous oak trees out of that campus that died because of that drought. Well, I found an old rancher friend, Wiley Green, in San Angelo, and he had fought a water problem all his life out in that semi-arid country. And someone had told me about Wiley Green, and I went out and told him what we were up against. I spent the night there at his invitation, and the next morning I got ready to leave. He said, I have a little check here for you, and he said, you go back to that campus and you get a good well dug and a good submersible pump, or whatever kind of pump you think you need, and you start irrigating those trees. And it was a check for $10,000, and at that time that was the largest check I'd received, and I remember how big it looked, you know. And I thought I was a pretty brave man, but I cried. It meant just that much to me, because I knew this campus had the natural beauty, but it wouldn't have if you took those trees out.
That's right.
And they were dying, but it saved those trees. And the only reason I have a beautiful campus today is because Wiley Green gave me $10,000.
And the idea.
Yeah.
Alva Stem, former director of Waco Parks and Recreation, recalls the attempts to maintain Lover's Leap during the drought.
There wasn't any water out there from anywhere until we ran a 2-inch water line from North 19th and Park Lake Drive out to Lover's Leap. But by the time that 2-inch water line got to Lover's Leap, there wasn't much of a trickle coming out of it because it lost all of its pressure during the distance that it had to come. And I think that since that time it has been remedied, but we weren't able to water that, and we had beautiful plum trees up there in Lover's Leap, and every year the white native plums would bloom there in Lover's Leap, going around the circle at Lover's Leap. They produced fruit, and the people would go out there and pick it, and I think you had to use about twice as much sugar as you had plum pulp in order to make some jelly or jam out of it, because it was so tart. They were the wild plums, but they were beautiful blossoms. And it got so dry so long that we never could keep them watered, and they all died.
Welcome rains began to fall throughout Texas in the spring of 1956, ending a 7-year drought that had devastated agriculture, parks, lakes, and reservoirs.
Thanks for listening to the Waco History Podcast. Like what you heard? Subscribe, rate, and review our show on iTunes so we can reach more listeners. You can find show notes and info on every episode at wacohistorypodcast.com, and more info on Waco's past at wacohistory.org. Our theme music, used with permission, is Cross the Brazos at Waco, performed by the late Billy Walker. For more info on Billy's music, go to billywalker.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
When I reach San Angelo.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.
Frozen, heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hey, I'm Zach,
And I'm Mike.
and we have a fantastic new podcast to tell you about. Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's the two of us looking into the world of comics, breaking down some characters that you may have never heard of, and some that are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so Zach comes up with a character each time, and I go into it just completely blind. I don't know who this person is or what their abilities are or anything, and basically I guess we kind of go over their origin story and just some of the ridiculous stuff that maybe, especially Golden Age stuff.
Oh, Golden Age stuff is always the best, and we will make sure to highlight all of the shenanigans and just absolute weirdness of everything.
Yeah, that's right. So subscribe today and follow us on Instagram at Bros, Foes, Heroes.
And if you don't, I know where you live. Not really, but please subscribe.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hi, I'm Hank. You might remember me from a show called King of the Hill. Check out a King of the Hill rewatch podcast. These boys ain't right, but they are funny. Find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts or at roguemedianetwork.com. I tell you what.